Hey up, Mr. Josh here again. So today's video is about job interview advice. And although this is for non-native English speakers, it really applies to anyone. This is just basic housekeeping, if you like. So before we get into the actual job interview itself, let's talk something pre-job interview, namely your CV. Now, when it comes to the CV, before you even write it, go to a website called monster.com. In fact, I'll put a link down below here. They've got a whole page about CV and cover letter writing advice. If I had £100 for every CV I've seen with mistakes in it, I wouldn't need to be sitting here now talking to you. I could be on a beach somewhere, drinking cocktails, lying under the sun with someone expensive rubbing me down. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. Anyways, make sure that not only is everything spelt correctly, but that dates match. You cannot believe how many CVs I have seen where the dates do not follow the correct order. Someone's working in one country and claims to be working in another country at the same time. Come on, this is just basic stuff. And it seems to me that the higher up you go in the corporate ladder, the worse the CVs are. So get your CV done properly before you send it to anyone, right? Check it. In fact, get as many people as you can to look at your CV. And every time you send your CV, open it and check it, okay? Because you'll be amazed how many times you'll open your CV and think, I want to change this, or this doesn't look right. In fact, it's not a bad idea to have maybe 2 or 3 different CVs, because when you look at the old job description, oftentimes they want different things listed in the CV. Some people want photographs, personal information, yada yada yada, okay? So think about having at least 2 different CVs. So after the CV, sent off your application, yada yada, and you get a request for an initial interview. Do research before you go, okay? Check the company in detail. Go to their website, read everything you can about this company, ask around, whatever. Research it like a project, like a military invasion, if you will. You need to know as much as you can about the company, okay? Especially if you're talking in another language. Read their website in English, because you will be able to steal useful phrases from it, and it will give you a better idea of what they're looking for. Every company works differently. Some are very focused on performance, on being the best. Others are more focused on how they treat their employees and their image. So research, check and steal as much information as you can from the website. Okay, there's always phrases that you can pinch and modify and mess around to make them your own. And when you've got all this research, you'll feel more confident about knowing what's coming. Okay, so do research. Now we come up to the actual job interview itself. Now, it's a modern fact of life that a lot of companies do job interviews via Skype initially. And because I'm probably talking to an ESL person, you might be applying for a job in another country, in which case it's going to be Skype. They're not going to ship you all the way to the country just for an interview. Skype interviews are a bit of an odd thing. There's some basic things you need to think about. First up, think about camera location. Have it about eye level, like I am sitting here in front of you now. I'm staring directly at you. Don't have the laptop low down, because that makes it look like you're over the top of the person, domineering them. And also don't have the camera really too high, because otherwise you'll look like a lost little child on the sofa. And worst of all, the one that I really hate, and I've seen it so many times with students, is they've got the camera over here, the monitor over here, and all the person sees at the other end is an ear roll the whole time. Don't do that. Make sure that you're engaged with the person you're speaking with. Okay? So pay attention to that. The other thing is what's known as edge patrol. Look around the frame behind you. Don't have things behind you that are going to cause distractions or embarrassment. So having all your kids' fluffy toys behind you may look very cutesy, But unless you're asking for a job as a nanny, you don't want to do that. You know, if you're a corporate executive asking for a six-figure salary, having cuddly toys behind you is not going to create the right impression. Okay, so pay attention to what is around and behind you. The other thing is, it's very easy to get trapped in the idea that it's an informal interview. And a lot of companies will say, this is just an informal chat. No such thing as an informal chat, okay? So don't sit there eating snacks and drinking from a whiskey bottle or anything like that. And also dress for what you're expecting, okay? If you're going for a corporate job, dress in a corporate way. Don't sit there in a t-shirt. That's just not going to be right, okay? Think about these things. It's a Skype interview, it's still an interview, even though you're not physically there with the person. So moving on, face-to-face interviews. Now this is a different breed of thing again. So over the last few years, I've spoken to a lot of people from HR departments, people who actually do interviews and look at CVs, and business managers who have to do interviews as well. And there's like recurring themes come up again and again and again about how people behave in interviews. Here's a useless piece of advice for you, okay? When you go into your first interview start, before you sit down, look around where you are, okay? At everything, especially if the office is personal to the person that's doing the interview, all right? Look for anything that is of interest. So if there's pictures of children, or there's a picture of the interviewer, I don't know, sitting on a motorbike or something, ask a personal question. And I don't mean personal like what's your inside leg measurement. I'm talking something engaging with the person, something to make like a human connection. So if the interviewer is a man and he's got a picture on the wall of him next to a motorbike, you might want to ask him, oh, you're a biker. You know, oh, I've got a friend that's, even if you know nothing about bikes, say, oh, I've got a friend who's a biker. What do you ride? Where'd you do it? Yeah, make a personal connection. The reason for doing this is you've got to remember that you're not the only person going for the interview probably. There might be another 3 or 4 people. And when he's going through the CVs at the end of the day and thinking, who do I want? He's going to remember you. He's going to remember you as the person who took an interest in him, right? So that is of note. So remember to do things like that. So now that we've established that entry thing, here's the other thing, which is actually linked to the preparation I was talking about before. Before you go for your interview, have in your mind a clear picture of who you are and what you do. So I have a question I love asking all English students. And I discovered that interviewers like to use a similar version to this question in interviews to freak out the people they're interviewing. And the question is basically something like this. So, tell me about you. Not what's on the CV, who are you as a person? And a funny story about this, one chap that I was speaking to told me he was having an interview with a very important person, someone who was gonna be making a lot of money. He was a very skilled guy. And when he asked this question to this chap, the guy started sweating and shaking and did everything he could to avoid the question. And after a couple of minutes, he just got up, said, I can't do this, and left. And they never saw him again. So have some kind of story pre-planned in your head, okay? And having that story in your head will make you more confident, because if you don't, you're going to get caught out. And when you get caught out, you're going to start getting nervous, you're going to start fumbling your words, and everything's going to go south shortly thereafter. You should remember this, that the language is not going to be the most important thing in the interview, unless you're going for a job where language is important, like, I don't know, an interpreter or a lawyer or something like that. But for most jobs, if you're doing like, I don't know, say engineering or something like that, or graphic design, they're not so worried about you speaking perfect English. But what they are worried about is that you can communicate ideas to them and that you can understand them. That is more important than perfect grammatical English. So don't stress out if you feel that you've said a couple of things wrong. And the other thing is, check what you're being asked. If a question is asked that could go one of two ways, check what they mean by it, okay? Ask a question back to the interviewer. Like, for example, the question about, tell me about you, and you don't understand what he's talking about, say back to him, what do you mean? Yeah, do you mean about my professional life? Do you mean about my home life? Do you mean about my hobbies? Check questions back. So the basic idea that I'm trying to get across is preparation. Preparation is everything, okay? Prepare your CV correctly, prepare your research correctly, prepare who you are correctly. Make sure you have a clear idea of everything in your head in English, okay? Remember that you're doing something very stressful already, which is an interview, but you're also doing it in another language. So make sure that you've got set pieces, so to speak, in your head that you can fall back on should you get asked something awkward. Get all that correct, and the rest of the interview, shouldn't be so bad. Then it comes down to your own personality and how good you really are. Well, I hope you found that helpful. If not, well, that's life. Go find someone else. So, I'm going to go. I've been sitting here for too long doing this. You can't believe how long it takes to do these videos. I need whiskey. Anyway, ciao for now.